So today, I'm going to try and stay on track and on time. I'm pretty good usually about it. We kind of front-loaded the whole morning with a lot of talk about operators, because in the afternoon, some of you are registered for the operator framework training course, which you should all take if you can at some point. And if you haven't gotten into the class, go to learn.openshift.com, and the operator framework there's a whole Catacoda course on it, so there's great stuff, so don't feel bad if you got left out. We'll have a coffee break around 10:50. We're going to hear from some people who have built operators, some people who are building operators, and we're going to talk a lot about container security because that's top of everybody's mind, I know. And then we're going to, after the morning session training is done, I'm going to make the trainers and the folks who are building the Rook operator come in and give a little talk too. So really, the morning is very operator focused, and that's a good thing from my point of view. The afternoon, we're going to dive into some other technologies. We're going to talk about some deep learning inference on NVIDIA, some of the GPU work that's being going on. Is Peter McKinnon in the room yet? Probably in the traffic jam out there. We're going to talk something, you don't get talks too often on C groups. They're not the popular child or the most fancy thing on the universe, but they are probably one of the most important conversations in our community right now. So we're really happy to have a good group of folks to come and have that conversation and talk about why that's really important. Then later, Brian Redbeard, and you'll know him because he does have that red beard, is going to give us a talk on Knative, Kiali, Istio, and all that good service mesh stuff. Then, because I can't do a gathering without having a real case study from someone to keep us grounded, is we have a production case study from First Republic. And I don't know if the First Republic person is here yet, but he'll be coming. Garesh promises me. And then we'll just do a little bit of a wrap-up. But what I like to do at the very end, there'll be a little bit of time in between talks for Q&A, but I'd like to bring all of the speakers back on stage at the end of the day before the reception, so you get one more chance to imprint on their faces. So during the reception, you can bug them too. But then you can ask them all the questions you want. So we'll end the day with an AMA session and not with me talking too much. And we couldn't do this without our sponsors. I don't know how many of you realize, but this is a community event, not a corporate event, which is why we really are dependent on our wonderful supporters. And not only are these people, Portworx and Crunchy Data and Covaris and IAS are out there in the reception area, but they're also some of the people who are building some of the operators and our partners, technology partners, helping other people deploy and build out their cloud infrastructure. So we're really pleased to have them here, and we really are beholden to them, so you'll hear me thank them quite a bit. So I want to talk a little bit about what this community is about, because you all here because it said Openshift Commons. You might be all here because there's free training. But really what we're trying to do is create around the ecosystem that is OpenShift and Kubernetes, a network and a peer-to-peer network of people who can collaborate together effectively. And that's really my goal here. My goal here is not to try and make a contribution to OKD, and I'll explain what that is, or to a certain piece of any part of the Kubernetes ecosystem. My purpose really is to see that we can coordinate all the efforts you're doing and get it out in a timely fashion, and that we can have that feedback loop that we need to be effective to do really great innovation. So for me, and open source is really the source of everything that I work on, that I work with, that powers the clouds that we work with. And at Red Hat, there probably someone once, Thomas Cameron once, the very first time I saw Thomas Cameron, who's a Red Hatter, give a speech at the Pacific Northwest Linux Fest, which is this little tiny, great Linux event in Bellingham, Washington, the home of some great donuts and coffee. And he had a slide on the page which had, in the tiniest font ever, every open source project that anyone at Red Hat had contributed to. And it was, you needed a microscope to see it. There's just so much open source out there that is powering all of these projects. Not just every one of the projects, including OpenShift and Kubernetes, is beholden to a whole slew of libraries, languages, and ancillary projects that help feed into it. So it's just part of our DNA, and that's really important to keep in mind, and OKD is just one piece of that puzzle. So this is really about how do we work effectively together to drive that continuous innovation into your projects. How do you get your feedback into those projects? How do you get updates and releases and information, and how do you manage all of that fire hose of information? So first I'm going to do a quick update. So how many of you heard that we changed the name of the open source project formerly known as Origin to OKD? Show of hands. Yes. Okay, some of you didn't. So we brought back the panda. If you guys were around in the very early days of gears and cartridges with OpenShift, we had a cute little animal icon, and when Builda got theirs, I wanted mine back. So I got this one back in the update. And so about 3 years ago, probably 2.5 years ago, if you don't know about it, we did a little pivot and refactored all of OpenShift on top of Kubernetes and became basically a Kubernetes distribution. So the rebranding is really about reflecting that. So if you hadn't been aware of it, my kudos to you. It's all there. The one thing, and there's one of my good friends just came back in, Steve Pusty in the back room. Shout out to you. OKD is still called Origin in the repo. So if you wrote scripts or anything else that is building your own version of OKD, it's still all in the same place. We didn't change that bit. So I really wanted to talk a little bit about how we're building and delivering OpenShift. It's really about integrating all of the other tools that you use, whether it's Ansible, whether it's Helm, whether it's operator framework, because we're going to talk a lot about operators today, or any of the other, the CoreOS pieces, the Docker pieces, any of the Ceph or Gluster. We are really beholden to all of these other projects that we pull in along with Kubernetes and create our community distribution. And there are they're over, now I think I have 68 community operators, and we're going to talk a little bit more about operators and things like that, so I'm not going to steal thunder from other people. But there's hundreds of folks that have integrated software that works with OpenShift and under OpenShift, so it's really that's driving it into the container platform, to OpenShift Dedicated, to OpenShift Online, and OpenShift on Azure now, too. So there's a whole lot of love for all of these projects and a whole lot of coordination that has to go on. So really, the other part of it is who is OpenShift. It's not just who is using OpenShift or who is contributing to it, but these people who are part of our community, like the CrunchyDB folks and the Portworx folks and the Kovaris and the others, and Black Duck and NVIDIA, and people you'll hear from today, and people who aren't here today, and big customers who are using stuff like Amadeus, who are also contributing to other projects. All of those people make up the OpenShift community and ecosystem. So OpenShift Commons is our community central, is our community place for all of these people. We have about 475 now, depending on the day of the week and whether I've answered all my emails. It goes up pretty much 10 or 12 new members a month, which is pretty awesome, and it's all very organic. It's just people who want to get into the community, get on the mailing list and the Slack channels. So I want to talk a little bit about this. And so OpenShift Commons is really kind of a new community model, new old sort of community model now, because we've been doing it for about 3 years. We changed the model from chasing contributors to our project to trying to make that network when we did the pivot to Kubernetes, because there was a huge fire hose of information we had to get out there. So what we're trying to do is take advantage of all the virtual tools that we have, whether it's BlueJeans or Slack or Slack in the Commons side or Slack on the Kubernetes operator framework has folks in the Slack channel or people that are in other venues. There's tons of them out there reaching out to each other, Stack Overflow, but trying to use all of that to create a way for all of you guys to connect with each other. And sometimes, and most of the times, what it is trying to create a connection between where Red Hat's not in the middle. So a lot of times in communities, it's someone from Red Hat connecting you to someone else. What we're really trying to do is create a model where you are having these peer-to-peer interactions. And it's been working pretty good. We have probably about 500 videos in the YouTube channel now of briefings and talks and things that I've coerced you and you've asked me to be able to give. I love giving away the podium, though it doesn't seem like that right now, but I will. And we're really trying just to keep the cadence up. Every time a new release comes out, every time Kafka comes with something, or Spark, or something that people are using in their toolkits, we really like to hear from the people who are using it, the people who are building it, and get that information out there. So if you're interested in doing that, we have lots of gatherings. I have a whole page about that. You can find it all in Openshift Commons. So if you go to commons.openshift.org, you can find the whole calendar. So this whole community model, rather than me going out trying to coerce you into pushing contribution into our project, has really driven a lot of contribution into our offering, into OKD. So we have over 70 companies that are now, and it's probably a little higher since I first made this, who have actually made code contributions back into OKD and back into that origin repo. So the side effect of having really good relationships, that sounds like a therapy thing, is that you are actually contributing to the relationship. It's wonderful. And so we like to think about it as, rather than trying to get you to give us code and that it's really about us having a conversation about the projects that you're working on, how we can contribute to them, and doing as much cross-community collaboration as possible. Because with all of those things that we're beholden to and dependent on, we have to have good communication between all of those projects. So we do a lot of communication and collaboration on Kubernetes. And the interesting thing about today is not really going to be a lot about, you're not going to hear about the latest release of Kubernetes or anything like that, because there are so many new projects on the side that we're going to be talking about instead, which I think is actually a good thing. We do a lot of work in all of the different SIGs. There's lots of leadership, probably on a monthly basis. I probably should update this slide. But there's a lot of Red Hatters who are out there contributing to other bits and pieces of Kubernetes. The folks from Bitergia are here. We've been doing some really interesting analysis work on where the work is being done on Kubernetes together, using some software that we have access to, about where Red Hatters are contributing to OpenShift and where they're contributing to Kubernetes. And each of those dots represent a person and a bit of code that's in each of the projects. And you can kind of see how there's a collaboration across projects here. And we've been doing some great work with them, seeing where people are working on both projects, and it's been quite interesting. But that's all. Those previous ones were all about where the Red Hatters are. These ones are where the different organizations, those 70 folks, or different organizations, are working on both projects too. And we really are trying to encourage this. The more stuff that's put in the upstream Kubernetes, the better, in my humble opinion, because more eyeballs, more sunlight's on that, and that just gets sucked in when we do our releases and put into from the upstream. So it's really a very great thing. The next iteration of this analysis is going to take in all of the other CNCF projects, and so we can start to see where the projects are going, which ones are the popular kids, which ones are the new kids. And as being from Canada, one of the things that's really interesting for me is to see where the hockey puck is going. So what is the next hotness? And one of the interesting things about when you start to really look at the relationships in this group of people, this network and this community, is that you can start to see where the mavens, if anyone has ever read Malcolm Gladwell on The Tipping Point, he has a personality or a persona called the maven, and those are the people, in my mind, in these charts, the larger people that have the most relationships to them. They may be contributing code and stuff, but they're also the people to watch where they move to when they move from OpenStack to Kubernetes or back, or we were looking at diving, I don't think I have a slide here. We're diving into the Amadeus's contributions, and you could see when they started using Kafka. So it was quite interesting to watch how all of this does. And this is all about watching how people are collaborating and helping to enable them. And that's really our goal here today. Because really it's about collaboration across all the streams. So if you walk away from here thinking that I'm trying to coerce you into contributing to OKD or Origin, that's not what we're here about. We're really here about getting your feedback, finding out what you're working on, what workloads that you want to work in this space, and making sure that you have the connections to do it effectively. And there's a lot coming. I added the little operator box here on the top, not because it's in CNCF, but just because it's having such a huge network effect on the number of people collaborating with Kubernetes and the OpenShift community. And it really is not just about the projects, it's about all of the folks here who are using Kubernetes, who are using OpenShift, who are using CoreOS stuff, who are using those operators, who are building them. It's really about the peers that are here today, and that's, if you take one thing, do meet somebody new today. If you take another thing I'll ask you to do is if you go to commons.openshift.org, and if you're not a member of Openshift Commons and you want to be on those Slack channels and you want to get the announcements about these events and other ones and briefings that we do. Last week we did a briefing on the operator framework for Ansible people. This week we're doing one on the operator lifecycle management for Helm people. Every week we do at least one or two, and we have SIGs. It's really a great thing. Please do join. If you can't figure out how to do it, I'll be around and I can show you how. Again, I'm going to thank the folks who are doing our sponsorship on the breaks. Please do take a minute and visit with them. Ask them about their operators. Welcome, if you haven't been to an OpenShift things before, welcome to our universe. We're really pleased to have you here, and thank you. And we're gonna, one more pitch. If you are coming to Boston for Red Hat Summit, let me know. And if you want to speak, let me know too. If you're going to Barcelona and you're going to be, or if you found out you got your paper accepted for KubeCon, let me know, because that probably means somebody's paying for your trip, so I can get you to speak or give you the podium there. We're going to do another gathering in Milan in the summer. That sounds terrible, trip, right? And then we'll be back here in the Valley for San Diego and doing the KubeCon North America event. So there's lots of opportunities for you to get the podium or for you to ask for a topic to be talked about. So please let me know if there's anything you'd like to talk about.